Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. We're in the beginning of summer, and everyone thinks that it's hard to get interesting guests because people are traveling, they're on vacation, but that's not the case. A few weeks ago, Dorothy, you'll remember, we had Torin Wright on.
Yes. And
we've had a couple of shows this year where we've had some people on that I've known for close to 2 decades. Torin being one of them, and in speaking with my guest for the hour, Keegan Foyles, she reminded me that Torin was your middle school choral director?
Yeah, he was. He was my choral director from 6th grade through 8th grade at Southern Middle School. So
okay.
It's crazy to hear that name again.
Well, so if we go back 2 decades with you, you were 2 years old.
Yes.
And now you're 22?
I am.
Okay. So I've had the privilege of not having a front row seat in your 20 years, but maybe having a good seat in the bleachers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Getting to see you from a distance.
Yeah.
And where you've been, what you've done. And it's interesting that when I look back over all the shows we did, you first appeared on the station with Abby Lopez. I think you were going to high school, or you had just started your freshman year.
Something like that. Yeah, it was a while ago.
Right?
Yeah.
The two, and I have a picture of the two of you, and we were recognizing both of you for the progress you were making as students, and things were on the up and up. And boy, we were right. Because now we're going to look back a little bit, and we're going to look forward to see where you've come in all this time.
Great.
You graduated Pinecrest in 2019.
Yes.
Okay. And during, I think while you were in high school, we had a show with you and your family, with your sister Lauren.
Yes.
On juvenile diabetes.
Yes.
And I think while you were also still in high school, just before you went to Methodist, we had a show with Louis Meacham. And I reached out and I wanted to find out if you were available to come to take part in the show. Why? Was because your interest in music was serious, and as it turned out, that's what you majored in at Methodist?
I did, yeah. I actually, I graduated with a bachelor's in music and vocal performance, so... Right. It was pretty serious.
You went to Methodist at the beginning of COVID?
I went in the fall of 2019, and so COVID actually ended up hitting March of my freshman year, yeah.
Okay. So you went through that experience.
I did.
Your mother was nice enough to send me your resume.
Oh.
And I happen to have 3 pages.
Oh, wow.
And I read it. And then I thought it would probably be a good idea for me to go back to the year I graduated college and show you mine. So
that would be great.
Yeah, we can compare notes because I wanted apples to apples.
Okay.
So this is my resume on one piece of paper.
Never arrested or incarcerated.
Those were the
that's
highlights.
important, though. That's really important.
My parents were so relieved.
I should add that to mine.
You should. I mean, they're so similar. We have, 2 peas in a pod. I see that.
I see it too.
You do?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
So one of my early memories about you was after your family moved to the home that your parents currently live in. Mm-hmm. You were probably 3rd grade, 4th grade, and I would see you riding your bicycle up and down the street, almost with a relentlessness and a tenacity and a purpose. And I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, she's on a mission.
Oh yeah,
What
definitely.
what was the mission? I saw it at a young age.
Oh, it was to compete with my dad, for sure. I saw him riding his bike. You know, he was riding up mountains and he was doing all of these crazy bike rides. And I was like, yeah, that's easy. I can do that.
Right.
And so I was definitely on a mission to compete with and eventually beat my dad. Not sure I ever did.
So at a very young age, you had the eye of the tiger.
You could say that, I guess. That's a nice way to put my competitiveness.
Right. Were you always competitive?
Always.
From the time you can remember?
The only time that I can remember not being very competitive, much to my dad's dismay, was soccer when I was about 3 or 4 years old.
Right.
And I cried because I didn't like that people were looking at me. So I think that after I got over that little incident, past then, I was extremely competitive, yeah.
You seem like an old soul at a young age to me.
Oh, thank you.
From afar, yep. And it's carried on. You graduated Pinecrest with honors. You were, from where I can stand, an exemplary student.
Thank you.
You were competing with yourself, not with others.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about the choice of college, how it came that you went to Methodist, because there was a lot of brouhaha about you going there, and I think you went on a full scholarship.
I did, for music. And so, yeah, it's actually really funny how I ended up at Methodist. So when I first went, because I was being recruited there for lacrosse,
Right.
I went to their prospect camp, and my dad will sit here and tell you that I was the biggest jerk in the world that day because I was dealing with all of the stress about college, and I was like, I don't want to go here. There are pine trees. It looks exactly like home. I can't go here. And I wasn't sure if the music and lacrosse thing was going to work out, because at this point I knew for certain that I wanted to major in music, and music is such a demanding degree, especially music education, that I was told by most of the colleges that were looking at me for lacrosse that I could not do both. And so
Why could you not do both?
Because between lacrosse and practices and traveling for games, and then music and participating in ensembles and all of that, everybody just said it's not possible. And a lot of colleges actually turned me away for that reason, that were looking at me for lacrosse. And so this was the only college that did not. And I ended up going there after I received the full tuition music scholarship. Otherwise, I was not planning on going to Methodist. I was going to drop lacrosse completely and go to Appalachian State or UNCG or another bigger school with a more prominent and pronounced music program. And so, yeah, the stars just kind of aligned there, and I'm very happy with the decision that I made.
Yeah, the looking back now over those 3 years, I guess that you were there, let's take a look and see how you did. You've received a Bachelor of Music in 2023. You received a full tuition scholarship. You made the President's List in the spring and fall of 2021, the Dean's List every year you were there. You were a junior marshal. You also were a research symposium presenter in 2022. And while you did that, you were, I think you were one of 10 or 12 players in Methodist history to get over 100 points in lacrosse. You were USA South All Conference in 2022. You were the Player of the Week in 2022. USA South Academic Honor Roll 2020, 2021, and 2022. And a Methodist University Scholar Athlete in 2020, 2021, and 2022. So you did okay.
I think that, It's a journey that was mine, and I really appreciate all of the things that I learned there and the opportunities that they gave me to pursue both sports and music, something that's not generally accepted.
And I didn't even finish all the kudos to you when you were at Methodist. I mean, you were the president of the university choral, the vice president in 2021 and 2022. I mean, you were completely involved, and you showed them. You could handle both.
Thank you. That was definitely my goal going into it. A few of my music professors, when I first got there, told me to quit lacrosse just immediately off that first semester. I wasn't even in season yet, and they told me to quit. And so I was like, "Ooh, I've really got to keep my grades up if I'm going to be able to play," because they would have pulled me had I not. So
is the way to get you motivated is to say to you, you can't do it?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's the best way to get me motivated, to get me to do something, is to tell me that I can't.
And then you're just going to say, I'm going to show them all.
I try to.
My father used to have an expression when I was a kid, and he would say, you can't do that. And I would say, oh, no, I'm going to do it. He said, you can't do that. I said, I'm doing it anyway. And he used to say to me, you can't fit a circle into a square. Right? I said, yes, I can. Now, what I was reaching for was a lot different than you, and many times my circle and square crashed. But that's how I learned.
Right.
But it's like your Achilles heel or whatever it is that gets your engine going is you can't. Mm-hmm. So you just turn around and show people you can.
I try to. Yeah.
Obviously. Your confidence from your past successes will serve you well because you have a new endeavor in front of you, I think, starting next month.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on.
I'm moving 6.5 hours away from home, and I'm going to law school at Penn State.
When did law school, when you entered Methodist,
right,
and when did law school come on your horizon? Because I don't think it was there when you started Methodist, was it?
No. In fact, I entered with a music education bachelor's. That's what I was going for. And I was bound and determined I was going to be a choir teacher. I loved my choir teachers throughout the year, Mr. Wright, Miss Slink, now Miss Pollock, and Dr. Martin at Methodist, and I adored them. And so I was bound and determined that was going to be what I was going to do. And then COVID hit, and then I got into my observation hours for my music education degree, and I began to see all of the things that I thought were wrong in the education system, especially in Cumberland County. That's where I did all of my observations. And so after looking at that, and then I talked to an advocate for music teachers that worked at the government level for North Carolina. And I decided, well, maybe law school would be a better path and I can serve this community better in that way. And so then in fall of my senior year, I changed my major.
What?
Yeah.
That late in the game?
It was actually 45 minutes before drop ad closed. I dropped all of my education classes for the semester, and I picked up all of the music classes that I need to finish with a degree in music performance, quite literally at the last possible moment. And I changed my major that day.
Well, let's, as we cut to break and come back in the second set, we have a clip of you at your senior recital that we'd like to play a little bit of so people can get an understanding about the depth of your talent.
Thank you.
So we're going to play a little bit of Keegan at her senior recital, which just happened not too long ago.
No, about 2 months.
Okay. And then we will return for the second set of All Things Moore County.
Dreaming for years
Welcome back to our second set. Our guest for the entire hour is Keegan Foyles. I've known Keegan just about from the time she was born. I've had the privilege to know her family all these years and watch them grow. And I would venture to say that you and your two sisters are the best report cards your parents could have ever received.
That's a strong statement, you know. I definitely. I got to think about that.
So I remember how tough your mom was when you were a little kid.
Yes.
She used to call you Monster.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I was like taken back by that. And then, but now I know why. I don't know if anyone explained it to you, but I can explain it now.
Okay.
Okay. So your mom saw in you a spirit, a determination, steely-eyed determination. And she was like, excuse me? This is my daughter? But what she saw was herself.
Now that we do get a lot.
Right?
Yes.
And at a very young age, I mean, you were way older than your years. And you didn't just, like, you weren't soft and you weren't that malleable. You stuck to your guns all the time. And so when she would call you that lovingly, I mean, today she would never call you that.
No.
What does she call you today?
Monster.
Still?
Yes, it's kind of stuck a little bit throughout the years. The meaning and connotation may have changed a bit. It might be more of an endearing term now, but yes, I still carry that with me.
It's when a parent can see in their child themselves too. That sometimes creates not friction, but she kind of knew what she was in for. Your personality was growing and budding.
Yes.
And it was very consistent. Your maternal grandfather, Julian, if he were around, my guess is he would have convinced your mom that he was going to take you on the road and be your PR person, your public relations agent. That's how proud he was of you.
Oh, well, I do believe that. My papa was very ready to get on the road at any point in time. I think that he slept with his suitcase under his pillow. So he would have loved the adventure of going around and touring law schools and all of that we did this past year.
He firmly believed that his 3 granddaughters were the greatest thing since strawberry cheesecake, and anyone that would disagree with him, they were just wrong.
No, he did think that a lot of people were wrong.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yep.
But he was the best supporter that I ever could have asked for. And I was actually talking to my maternal grandmother the other day on the phone, and we were talking about my papa and about how we wish that he was around to see this point in our lives and see the twins graduate high school and go to college and see me graduate college and go on to law school.
Right.
And we know that he's looking down on us and smiling. So.
Right. Parents and grandparents have funny ways of telling you how they love you.
Yes.
Right. We'll leave it at that.
Absolutely.
But they all do.
They do.
We close the first set with your senior recital.
Yes.
Can you put a little framework to it? That was a culmination of, would it be a culmination like a thesis that was completed, your final performance?
Yes. So every major at Methodist had to do some sort of capstone project. And so for music performance majors, ours was our senior recital. And it's 45 minutes to 55 minutes worth of music. And it's all memorized, and you have to sing in at least 3 different languages. So I sang in English, Italian, German, and French. And it's a beast. It is very hard, not only for memorization purposes, but I had to be able to translate every single word that I said. We had a committee that judged me and graded me on it. And in order to perform the recital, 3 weeks before, I had to go in and perform the entire set for these 3 professors. And they gave me a grade on it that determined whether or not I was fit to sing my senior recital. And given the late change of my major, I started this much later than I should have if I was planning on performing a senior recital.
Right.
So I ended up performing it the very last week of school.
Crazy.
Right before finals started. The literal last day I could have performed this thing is when I did it. So I'm very lucky that I passed my hearing, because otherwise I would not have graduated.
You beat yourself up sometimes in getting ready to perform or to do something. You're hard on yourself, and do you go into it with insecurity, and then you wind up acing it at the end of the day?
Well, it's like we talked about earlier. My biggest motivation is somebody telling me that I can't do something. And unfortunately for me, I had incredibly supportive professors, and they all told me, you've got it, you're going to do great. And so I didn't have that person telling me that I couldn't do it, so I had to tell myself that I couldn't do it, so then I could prove myself wrong. So yes, I would say that I kind of beat myself up heading into it.
With law school on the horizon, I guess you start in August?
I do,
Okay.
Yes.
So where you stand today, looking back, talk to me about your mentors, the people that had the greatest influence on getting you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I definitely, like I said earlier, all of my choir teachers, they're the reason that I ended up doing what I did. I wouldn't be going to law school had I not done music education first. And so Mr. Wright, Ms. Pollock, and Dr. Martin, all of them were fantastic mentors to me. They really fostered my love of music, and I really valued everything that I did in their classrooms. And then I would definitely say my parents, as much as it made me upset that they said, you're never going to be a music teacher. When I went to school, they always said, you're going to end up being a lawyer. And I called them crazy.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I remember I was home for COVID, and I was doing my music education work and talking about how I wanted to decorate my classroom or something in the future. I don't know, some crazy dinner table conversation.
Sure.
And my mom just kind of scoffed at me, and I went, what? And she said, you're never going to step foot in a classroom. And I said, that's so rude, first of all. How could you say that to me?
What did she say?
She said, you don't have the temperament for it. You're going to be a lawyer. And I took this as the biggest insult. I remember calling my friend on the phone. I was like, you won't believe what my mom just said to me. Mm-hmm. She told me I'm not going to be able to do this thing that I'm here to do. I'm getting really good grades. Like, why does she not think that? I want support from my parents. And of course, they ended up being right, as they always are.
That's a funny thing about parents, right?
Yeah.
They're always right, except not all the kids recognize it at the time that the lesson is put in front of them, or the words or the advice.
Absolutely. But yeah, really throughout the law school application process, my parents, having gone through it themselves and knowing exactly what I was facing, they really helped me through it. They understood when I couldn't come home from Fayetteville last summer because I was studying for the LSAT. They took me out to a really nice dinner once I got my score back. And then they took me across the country to tour all these law schools and see which one I liked the best. Right. So they were great.
You think your mom is happy that you're going to be in State College because she can come and visit now when there's snow?
I think that she's very happy about State College and snow. Yep. But I think that the Big Ten in her, the Wisconsin, the Badger, that's not as happy. I think that she's a little bit upset that I'm going to another Big Ten school. And I do think, as much as she may refrain to admit it, that she is upset about me moving so far away too. She was very much a cheerleader for all of the in-state schools, and it just ended up working out that Penn State was the one.
If I'm reading your resume correctly, you've received a full scholarship?
I did.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
You were a music major,
Yes.
a choral major. You didn't decide until the last minute to switch gears in your senior year, right? To switch majors?
Yes, summer before my senior year is when I decided that I wanted to go to law school, for sure. And so I studied and I studied and I studied that whole summer leading up to the August LSAT. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the LSAT is online now because of COVID. And there's one thing that's my Achilles heel that is my downfall, and it is technology. And so I ended up getting on there, and my computer died during the LSAT, and it wouldn't let me back in because the security for these tests is so strong that if you even leave the window to go, they make you scan the room first to make sure that there's nothing there. I had to take off one of my laptop stickers, and my computer ended up dying before I could finish the test.
Oh.
And so I had to accept that was not going to be very good for me and retake the test again in October. And that's when I got my LSAT score back that I wanted. But yeah, that whole summer leading up to it.
So the scholarship that you got was based on what criteria?
My LSAT score,
Okay.
my GPA.
Okay.
And I assume also maybe a little bit of my personal statement, which is like my essay that I wrote about why I wanted to go to law school.
What did you say in that statement?
I said that I was a music major and that I listed out the injustices that I had seen in the education system, starting with how I went to go observe a kindergarten music class one day. And I got there, I drove 30 minutes outside of Methodist to go watch this class at a Cumberland County elementary school. And I got up to the front desk and they told me that I had to come back another day. And I was so confused. I said, well, why can't I go watch this class? And they said, well, Mr. Tyson, the man that I was going to watch, is teaching second grade math right now. And I was like, well, why is he doing that? He's a music teacher. And it's because they didn't have enough substitutes. And then I went in my middle school observations, how one student his parents couldn't afford lunch for him anymore. And so he had to come back into the choral room during lunch. And luckily the teacher had some stuff in her lunchbox and I had a package of fruit snacks in my backpack and we gave it to him for lunch. But he was denied food by the school. And then I talked about COVID and how a lot of the kids in Cumberland County couldn't afford Wi-Fi. And they just basically missed an entire year and a half of school.
Of education, right?
Yeah. And so I started off talking about that. And then I talked about why this has motivated me to suddenly change gears and go into law school.
So something in that essay that you wrote, they must have seen something about your heart in it.
I hope so. That's a really great way to think about it.
I mean, they had to. It says full tuition scholarship. On my resume, I don't see anything. It's empty.
Hey, you were never arrested or incarcerated.
That's it. I mean, and I pound my chest proudly that but I don't see scholarship there. Keegan, we're going to come back in the third set. I have a couple of questions to ask you moving forward. Keegan Foyles is our guest. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to our third and final set with our guest, Keegan Foyles. During the break, Keegan, you and I were talking. When I was a kid, in all seriousness, I reacted the same way when people put a challenge in front of me and said, you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
All I wanted to do was do it.
Absolutely.
Show everybody that I just proved them wrong.
Yes.
And it carried on through my adulthood. And in some ways, it was an insecurity, but it helped me push myself more. And
absolutely.
You as well, right?
Yes. I think it's that competitive spirit coming out. Really, even if you have nobody to compete with, you've got to compete with yourself.
Right. So as long as you have that, that's going to be your engine, and it's going to always move you forward and propel you, I think.
I sure hope so.
You familiar with Zig Ziglar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh,
He said, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals.
Wow.
Right?
I've never heard that quote before, but yeah, that's really insightful.
It is insightful. So you run on a track, you punch your ticket at each stop, but at the end of the journey, you become different than you were at the beginning of the journey. You gather a lot of successes that you've had. I'm sure you've had failures.
Yes.
Okay. But as a person, you change. You build up a perspective that you may not have had when you were 15. Now you're 22. Your journey has been marked by a lot of upward mobility with successes, but all along the way you've had failures as well.
Yeah, and I think that as important as it is to celebrate those successes, I think that quote really applies to the failures as well, because it can really feel like you're on a downward momentum once you reach one of those milestones where you're just like, I can't keep going. How could this happen? But if the overall trajectory is upward, then that's where the growth happens, is in those failures. The successes, they come and go, they're great and everything, but I've really learned the most that I have in the past few years when I failed.
Right. And you have that attitude, I'm guessing this, it's you against the world.
Yes.
Right?
For better or for worse, I do think that is correct.
If you're going to get up and dust yourself off, you're going to do that by yourself. Yes. Nobody is going to do it for you.
Yes.
Okay, that's a gift. It's a gift to be able to do that, because you become the antithesis of someone that's entitled.
I definitely think that it's a good thing.
Right.
It can sometimes be a bad thing. But for the most part, I do think that it takes mental strength to be the person that gets yourself up and to be the person that you rely on the most.
Right.
I'm trying not to let it lead me to a lonely life.
My prediction is it won't happen.
Yeah.
It will not happen that way. This is another one. I want to read you a quote.
Okay.
By Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
You define your own life. Don't let other people write your script.
Yes, that is a very good quote.
Do you write your own script?
I think I do now. I think there was a time in my life, as in most people's lives, where you want your parents to do it, and as a small child, your parents do, for the most part, write your script. They determine if you get to school on time. They determine if they help with your homework, if you're getting the support and love that you need at home, and then eventually you shift into letting your friends write your story and letting them sway you to do that type of
right.
like whether you're going to do your homework after school or you're going to go hang out with them. And so I think that quote is incredibly important to consider, especially as you're getting to be college age, my age, because you can't let other people write your story for you anymore. You really, even if they want you to do other things, there were like I said, in my freshman year, everybody told me to quit lacrosse, that it was not possible and it was not doable.
Everybody?
Well, most of the professors in the music department, they had never seen an athlete come through and be able to handle it. And I almost did it.
That's all you needed to hear?
Yeah, that's really all I needed to hear. And I came home that first Christmas and I told my parents, I think I'm going to quit. And they said, just give it one season. Just give it one season. And I almost let people write my story for me.
Right.
And Dr. Martin was one of the people that agreed with my parents. Just see what happens. Just try it. But had I let them write my story, I don't think that I would have done everything that I did in college.
Last quote.
Okay.
Michelle Obama.
It's a good one.
One of the lessons that I grew up with was to always stay true to yourself and never let what somebody else says distract you from your goals. Pretty appropriate.
That is pretty appropriate.
Right?
Yeah, there were a lot of times in college where I got really distracted by friends, by lacrosse, other drama that comes up. My papa died my freshman year of college.
Right.
And it is so easy to get caught up in that and to lose sight of everything that you're working for.
Yeah.
And especially in college, there's the party mentality. And that's something that I really had to let go of. I had to be okay with the fact that I wasn't going to be part of the in crowd that goes out every weekend, especially as I was studying for the LSAT and things like that. Especially being an athlete, that's what you're expected to do. You're expected to be a part of that in crowd. And I had to eventually say, well, what do I want most? And there is one quote that I always have playing in my mind, and it's discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most.
Love it.
And I had to have discipline, and I had to stay on track for what I wanted to do. And
even though you came in here today and you are speaking exactly as I thought you would, you did leave your blinders home, the ones that you put on.
Yes.
Because you have, I think you have blinders on. You don't see the peripheral. You are highly focused as a goal-oriented person, aren't you?
Yes.
That hasn't stopped.
No, unfortunately, it has not. And fortunately, it has not.
Right.
But I get very, I get a lot of tunnel vision.
Yep.
And if I decide that I'm going to do something, I will work all night until it's done, and I won't even realize it. And so.
Your next challenge is law school.
Yes.
And you're excited?
Excited, yes, and nervous.
Okay.
And feeling all of the things.
So what do you, going into it as a new beginning, as a new opening, law school is how many years?
3.
3 years, okay. Do you see yourself practicing law as a result?
I do.
And what kind of law?
I really like educational law, educational policy, and so I could definitely see myself doing that. However, my father is an excellent litigator, and so I don't know. Maybe I'll get there and find out that I prefer litigation, and I'm keeping my options open.
You're smart to say that because you've made a commitment to go to law school and grant yourself some grace, whereby you have the right to pivot,
yes,
change your mind, because every year your perspective is going to get better and you're going to learn things. And you know that expression, you know what you know, but you don't know. People don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
And so that means that there are probably going to be a lot of aha moments in the next couple of years for you that you may not have considered, that may change how you think, and you shouldn't be hard on yourself because of it. You just go with it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I've heard of all of the lawyers that have gotten into law school and said that they were going to completely change what they thought they were going to do. And so I'm definitely happy to keep my eyes and options open.
Right. You've got the right stuff. And
thank you.
I think your mom will probably plan all her visits to State College after she checks the weather.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
She'll kill two birds with one stone.
Yes, she's on that weather app constantly. So,
you've come a long way. Moore County schools should be very proud of what they produced with you.
Thank you.
And where you're going. And like I said, you and your two sisters are probably your parents' best report card. It's the truth.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And it's been a pleasure to be able to have you over the years, right?
Yes,
to come
it's
on
been
in
a while
different
that I've been on
capacities.
here. Yeah.
We wish you all the best, Keegan.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Everyone, this is All Things Moore County. Have a great week.